Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's Workshop Wednesday. I'm Jennifer Slattery with the League of Cities and Towns, and today we have our friends from the Food Policy Council and other important and relevant groups to talk about composting and potentially creating your own composting program within your communities. So let's get started, and we'll move it right over to Josh Daly. Josh, thanks for being here.
Great, thanks so much. Happy to be with you all this morning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and we'll get started. So as Jennifer said, I'm Josh Daly. I'm the Associate Director at the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. We've got a great conversation this morning on moving municipal composting forward. So I'm going to give a quick introduction to us, the Food Policy Council, for those who don't know us. So we're an independent nonprofit organization statewide in Rhode Island. Our mission is to build an equitable, accessible, economically vibrant, and environmentally sustainable food system for all Rhode Islanders. So that sort of has us working in four key areas: food access and nutrition security, food business and economic development, food climate and environment, and food education and workforce. And this issue, composting, touches a number of different areas of the food system, and food waste diversion is more broadly is a big piece of what our network is engaged in. So we are an independent nonprofit, as I mentioned, and as our name suggests, we work on policy advocacy for sure, but we also work on partnerships and projects. We're a network-based organization. Any Rhode Islander can join, be part of our work. We have work groups and a number of other ways to get involved in the work that we do, both on that policy advocacy, but then in building partnerships. We work closely with state agencies, with municipalities, and with nonprofits in the state in our food system to move things forward for that more just and resilient food system that we're talking about. And so, you know, we think about it from a network-based model in our DNA, always looking to partner, and we always look at a systems view as well. So the food system means everything from farms and fisheries and production at the sort of beginning of the loop, if you'd say it that way, through processing and food businesses and that are doing processing, distribution, retail, to consumers and food access, equitable access related issues, to food waste and food waste diversion efforts, and making it so that this is indeed a circle and not a straight line to the landfill, if I can say it that way. It's about the things that support that as well, and the things that we build up around that to build a just and resilient food system. So that is everything from advocating for policy change, to land and capital access, to clean air, clean water, and healthy soils. And again, compost touches on so many different pieces of what makes a healthy, just, and resilient food system. So that was your intro to us as the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. You're going to hear from us. We want to keep in touch with you. This is a two-way conversation this morning. We'll give you a little bit of a presentation and a panel discussion, but then want to have a really robust Q&A. If you would go ahead and put your names and affiliations in the chat, we'd love to know who is in the room with us. Take a minute and do that. And then I will pass it over to my colleague, Isaac Berg.
Thanks, Josh. So yeah, I'm the new program director for food, climate, and environment here in at the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. And I'm really excited to work with you all. You know, I'm sort of the person who, if you have questions about how do I move my municipal program forward, come talk to me. I want to help you think about all the different ways that you can make that happen. And as part of that, we have this awesome panel of folks that are going to show you a lot of the different ways that you know, your municipality can really make a difference in a more sustainable system. So, you know, we want to first set the level and talk about, you know, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why is it important? So I'm gonna hand that off to our compost work group co-lead, Tess, from Epic Renewal, to kind of kick us off with that.
Thanks, Isaac. So to understand why this really matters, a good place to start is understanding that we currently dump $713 million worth of compostable material in the landfill each year. And our landfill is going to reach capacity within 19 years. When we run out of space in our landfill, our tipping fees are going to exponentially increase, raising costs to municipalities and residents alike. In addition to those economic challenges, when our food and yard waste goes to landfill, it releases methane, which is a greenhouse gas 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. However, when we treat these waste streams as the resources they are rather than discards, we unlock a myriad of economic, social, and environmental benefits, all while extending the life of our landfill. Implementing composting infrastructure allows us to reduce our trucking and hauling footprint by keeping our discards and their benefits local. This work allows for inclusive job creation, offering up to 14 jobs per 10,000 tons of material composted, and provides an excellent non-traditional pathway to employment. Community-oriented composters often behave as critical community support structures, offering engagement points that promote communal belonging and connecting community members to social services, food access, and other critical resources, while plugging equity gaps for residents of low-income and historically excluded communities. Composting also allows us to close the loop in our food systems by taking our waste and turning it into a vital amendment that builds healthy soils, which supports agriculture and our climate in powerful ways from the ground up. Healthy soils can help draw down and sequester more carbon in the ground, allowing it to act as the building block of life it's meant to be. This allows for increased water absorption and retention, replenishing our water tables and creating resilience to drought, flooding, and other environmental crises. That sequestered carbon in the soil is also acting like the carbon filter in your Brita pitcher. It's drawing heavy metals and toxins out of our groundwater. And that healthy soil also allows our farmers to grow more nutritious and abundant food within the same footprint and without the use of toxic and expensive pesticides, herbicides, and synthetic fertilizers. Strengthening our soil strengthens our entire ecosystem, promoting health and resilience for our climate, our communities, and our workforce, all while leveraging a resource we already have in abundance.
Awesome. Thanks, Tess. So yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of ways that, you know, composting is important. And if you need to, you know, make that case to your town, if you need to make that case to your community to move a program forward, you know, we're happy to help you make that case, as well as I know our network of folks is also happy to help you make that case. So while now that we've, you know, at least given you a little taste of why it's important, we want to give you, you know, sort of a framework of like, this isn't just something that's happening here in Rhode Island, in the US, in, you know, it's happening worldwide, and there are examples of this happening, you know, all over. And so we just want to give you sort of that framework of things to think about. So with that, I'm going to hand it to our other co-lead, Ella from Groundwork Rhode Island / Harvest Cycle, to give you a little overview of sort of successful composting ecosystems.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so like Isaac said, this is happening all over, and there's sort of like a million different ways to do composting, as you'll hear emphasized throughout this when everyone sort of shares what they do. So there's no like one size fits all on how to do it or silver bullet, especially at a city or town scale, but there are sort of certain components that all need to work in collaboration for the whole ecosystem to flourish. If it's out of balance, then your whole system is sort of out of whack. And So those include education and programming, sort of really emphasizing the why, all of the stuff that Tess said, and also the how to make sure everyone in your city or town understands why it's important to compost and how to do it properly so that the compost can really have all of those benefits. And it's not, contaminated with trash. So the education and programming is critical. Then you also have the collection of all the organic material, right? And that involves aggregating all the food scraps and organic material. This needs to happen in a reliable way so that it sort of backs up the why we're doing this. And then once you have the organic material, it needs to be processed into compost. And so, yeah, doing that in a variety of different ways so that all those benefits can be realized. Can you go to the next one? So just a couple examples of sort of all the different things that can fit into each of those buckets. And you'll hear me emphasize in others that really a combination of efforts within each of those categories is really what will create a resilient composting ecosystem. So education and programming can include things like home composting workshops or support, maybe providing composting bins and subsidies and things like that. It can include community composting in public spaces like parks or libraries or botanical centers where you're teaching people how to compost and maybe composting there as well. It can include curriculum in schools, workshops at libraries, community centers, all that kind of thing. Just again, re-emphasizing why we're doing this, why it's important, and also teaching people how, because it's new it's not part of everyone's everyday habits. Next one, please. So then once people sort of know why and how, there's the collection, which can also happen a variety of different ways. And again, sometimes a combination of these really works the best. There's private food scrap collection services. A lot of these exist in Rhode Island already, which is awesome, where residents pay for their food scraps to be collected, and companies who this is their specialty, they really know what they're doing, come and collect it. Sometimes if cities and towns want to expand the program, they can contract with a private hauler so that residents aren't required to pay and it can be bigger. Some municipalities run their own municipal collection program. There's also drop-off programs, which tend to be a little bit lower barrier, lower cost sort of way to build support for composting, where maybe the city hosts a drop-off site where people can bring their food scraps and a hauler, either through the city or through a private company, will then collect from there. And that's a good way to sort of build support before instituting something that's like a little bit of a heavier lift, like a curbside collection program. And again, sometimes these work in concert, right? So maybe a curbside collection program doesn't work for large apartment buildings, so you also have drop-off option and things like that. So yeah, again, a diverse ecosystem is the most resilient one. Yeah, you can go to the next one. And then, yeah, once you have collected all of the food scraps in whatever way, whatever combination of ways, it needs to be processed into compost. And so, yeah, that again happens at a variety of scales through a variety of different methods, and supporting all of these different ways is helpful. So there's the sort of community scale, which is usually quite hyper-local, off the community gardens or parks, or you can see one under a bridge in that photo over there. Yeah, usually smaller footprint, smaller scale with a lot of direct community involvement. So it's a continuation of people being involved in every step of the process and understanding why and how, providing education and jobs and that sort of thing, usually within the city. Then there's the larger scale, which can handle a lot bigger volumes. There can be sites that are just processing compost, or many farmers will have their growing operation and then composting as well. And both of those sort of working in conjunction. Those are usually, yeah, much larger volumes, a little bit outside the city, often on bigger pieces of land. And again, all of them can sort of work together to handle the scale of the problem and fill sort of a variety of different needs and community benefits. Yeah, I think that is all. Pass it back to Isaac.
Awesome. Thanks, Ella. So if you'll notice, very specifically, we did not include any examples in those models from the state of Rhode Island. Well, why? Because we have all the wonderful Rhode Island folks with us. So with that, I'm just going to sort of kick off and help introduce all of these folks and and ask them to tell a little bit about what they do, and how they can who they serve and how it works. Because again, as Ella was saying, this is all a menu of options of things that you can do. And maybe you'll pick a few of them, maybe you'll only pick one, that's fine, but we hope you'll pick at least one. So with that in mind, I'm going to start introducing our panelists, and please feel free to write any questions you have in the chat. We'll I try and address as many as of them as possible, and we've definitely left time for questions as well. So yeah, with that, I'm going to start with Stuart Martin.
Good morning, all. Stuart Martin here, Providence Garden Works. My focus is urban backyard composting, something I've been doing for 18 years. Our family alone has diverted, we calculated, 15 tons of food waste, food scraps. Thanks to Jane Murner, she figured out 15 tons turned into 22 cubic yards of compost in our backyard. So this is my focus.
Awesome. Thanks, Stuart.
Welcome.
From there, I will hand it to Lisa Pellegrino from Center for Ecotechnology.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It is a thrill and an honor to be here with everybody today. The Center for Ecotechnology is it's often abbreviated as CET. First off, don't want to talk in acronyms and codes, but we're a 47-year-old environmental nonprofit, and we've been helping people and businesses save energy and reduce waste. We've been working in wasted food solutions for over 20 years, and so we've become deeply knowledgeable about wasted food solution marketplaces. In that time, working with all stakeholders in food recovery ecosystems, from the surplus and food scrap generators, places like Midtown Oyster Bar, Diego's, URI, Atlantic Cape Fisheries, and to food rescue organizations like foodrecovery.org, formerly the Means Database, Elijah Project, many others, farms and farmers, to composters, haulers, and anaerobic digestion facilities. So we assist these businesses and institutions working across the EPA's food recovery hierarchy, which they just recently updated to the wasted food scale. Exciting time to be doing this work. And little tangent, but my favorite slice of the scale is upcycling. So keep me in mind if you ever want to talk creative ways to repurpose ingredients like pesto. It's one of my past lives before coming to CET. But so anyway, real quick, we do these on site, and we can also do virtual waste reduction assessments for businesses and institutions. And we then provide a customized report on recommendations, and this is all at no cost to businesses and institutions. And then we work with the entities to implement prevention, recovery, and diversion solutions, doing that matchmaking with service providers like food rescue organizations or composters. Then we work to ensure that they're seamlessly integrated into existing operations, right? Because so much of this is a matter of logistics, right? If it's not a workable solution, then it's not a sustainable solution. And last thing I'll just quickly say is it's an honor to be doing this work in the Ocean State. I think a state that's arguably the most poised to be a leader for the rest of the country in bridging the gap between wasted food and food insecurity and healthy soils. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, I should mention that, my background is composting, and I gave a workshop one time all about composting, and the next speaker got up and said, the last thing you should do is composting. And I said, you know what? She's right. Because you should always be thinking about how you can reduce, how you can, feed hungry people. But then composting is, as we just talked about, a super important part of that. And so we're happy to have, players within the ecosystem like CET and others who are focused on, diverting, and then all of our wonderful composters. So that being said, let me hand to the next folks here. So I'm going to go with one of our wonderful compost work group leads who you just heard from. Let's go with Tess from Epic Renewal.
Hi, I'm Tess Feigenbaum from Epic Renewal. We're based in Central Falls. We serve all of Rhode Island and much of Massachusetts. We particularly specialize in zero waste events. If you want a great example of that, come check out the Newport Marathon next week. We also specialize in compost collection services for small businesses and educational workshops around this topic, zero waste and soil health. We primarily do all our composting indoors, leveraging a fermentation process to maximize diversion without added labor, which also allows us to work with compostable serviceware and other compostable plastics that are critical in the events and service industries. We also love developing on-site partnership-driven solutions for food waste and education, and collaborate with the national compost community to leverage data to legitimize and promote this work.
Awesome. Thanks, Tess. And then I will hand it back to Ella.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, the program I run is called Harvest Cycle. It's a bike-powered food scrap collection service in Providence and Pawtucket. So we collect mostly from households in Providence. We also have a network of drop-off sites around the city, and yeah, compost those food scraps and then redistribute it back to the people whose food scraps we collected. So our focus is really on like the community scale level, and also leveraging youth employment and training, as well as adult job training, workforce development into our programming.
Awesome. And I assume Connor, you'll speak for Black Earth.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Connor with Black Earth Compost. We started as a Massachusetts company about 14 years ago, and we do both the collection and the composting of food waste. For municipalities, we do transfer stations and schools, some drop-off programs. And for residentials, we often start as like a private program, private pay. And a lot of times municipalities want to chip in with that or turn it into a pilot program. And then sometimes they take it a step further and do citywide. So we do citywide collection in 3 cities in Massachusetts, getting upwards about 50% participation rates in the city. We also do compost sites. We design, build, and operate 3 compost sites. They're about 100 tons per week of food waste capacity each, and 2 of them are for municipal. They're on municipal property. It's for the town. So that's what we do. We do residential, commercial, and compost sites.
Awesome. Thanks, Connor. And then I will go with Leo from Leo Pollock from Remix Organics.
Hey everyone, Leo Pollock, one of the co-founders of Remix Organics. We used to be called the Compost Plant, reshifted and pivoted a couple of years ago. So we are now just a food waste hauler. So we manage just organic waste, and our space is generally kind of small commercial, so from restaurants, coffee shops, all the way up to large institutional industrial. So we service a number of most of the major universities in the state, hospitals, nursing homes, as well as large scale kind of industrial food processing facilities. So we have worked with some municipalities in the past, as was mentioned, some of the drop sites. When kind of individual households are aggregated, we have done kind of pickups as the equivalent of a commercial account. So that's something we'd be happy to discuss if you're interested. We're based in Providence, service the state, service into Massachusetts and into Connecticut as well. Have kind of a fleet of customized trucks specifically for food waste. We tend to operate with washing bins, having bins that are designed to be leak proof, to try to alleviate some of the concerns that folks have around odor, pests, potential things like that.
Awesome. And last but most certainly not least, is my good friend and compost podcaster and compost extraordinaire, Jane Murner from Earth Care Farm.
Hi, thanks so much, Isaac. Jane from Earth Care Farm. We're in Charlestown, Rhode Island, and we are a farm mostly, and also a large-scale composter. My dad started the compost operation in the 70s. And we do take in yard materials from some municipalities currently, Westerly, some areas of Aquidneck Island, and the town of South Kingstown. And we do take in commercial food waste as well. I like to say wasted food instead of food waste. And we also receive, for over 30 years now, the manure and bedding from Roger Williams Zoo, a lot of fish materials from the fish processing plants. Used to be in Narragansett, but now most of it comes from New Bedford and Boston, as well as a lot of seaweed from Groton, Connecticut, and some of the beach cleanups in Rhode Island as well. So a wide variety of different things. We don't do any trucking, so we do rely on the private haulers that are in this conversation here. We're excited to just bring on more composting. Right now we compost between 50 and 100 tons per day of mixed organics. And we're in 2 weeks closing on a second site. So very excited to expand. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And I just want to, make sure that our attendees know that we will send out the information on all of these companies so that you can contact them when we're done here. But yeah, I do want to encourage you also again to either raise your hand, put any questions you have in the chat, but we do have some questions that we'll move along with in the meantime. So I think the number one thing that, municipalities would want to know is, well, how can you help me? What can if I come talk to you, what are you going to do for me? So I'll open it up to any of the panelists to, sort of kick us off. How about Lisa?
Sure. So typically the Center for Ecotechnology's work is a little more focused on that private sector in terms of the technical assistance we provide. However, there are plenty of times when we partner with municipalities, especially in geographies where maybe there isn't a statewide law, which there is in the case of Rhode Island, an organics landfill ban that really drives a lot of our work. But if there's like a new area, say Maryland, we would do, actually Maryland's passed a law as well, but we could do SWOT analyses or like a landscape analysis to figure out kind of what is the existing infrastructure look like? How could policy be leveraged? I definitely have worked with recycling coordinators and other municipal officials on just that help identifying the businesses and institutions that could benefit from that free technical assistance. And you could think of that again as like matchmaking. I don't want to get jargony with this idea of like technical assistance, but it's that matchmaking around what are the opportunities for prevention here? What are the opportunities for donation? What are the opportunities for, composting and potentially anaerobic digestion? Again, it's very much driven by what's the local infrastructure, what's going to make the most sense for the business. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any sites in mind that you were like, oh, they could really help from that just initial assessment, right? That triaging of looking at what's possible here.
Awesome. Jane, do you want to talk to us a little bit about how you're working with municipalities?
Sure. I actually might switch it up and talk a little bit about a recent trip I had to Austria, where I got to explore. Austria had a food scrap ban. They banned food scraps going to the landfill back in 1992, and they've been composting since then. So I went there as a tour, interestingly enough, to study their compost system. That was my vacation with my son. It was fascinating. We visited about 20 different compost facilities and got to see how that unfolded. And I feel like their model could help us speed up Rhode Island's way of getting a lot more stuff composted here. And it takes a whole dichotomy. It takes everybody in this room, every size scale of compost operation, and an incredible amount of education. And the things that helped them succeed a lot was really the municipalities working with the composters to really help educate the community. And it's like an ongoing effort where composters there can reach out to the municipality and say, you know, we've been seeing a lot of K-cups getting in with the food scraps. Could you reach out to the consumer and let them know? And it was a really beautiful public-private partnership where there was just an open street, an open communication between the composters, the community, and the municipalities kind of making the rules. So I don't know, I'd be happy to talk more with each municipality about how it worked, but it was different depending how rural the town was versus suburban versus urban, about what they used in terms of a mix of backyard composting, small scale composting, farm composters, and some anaerobic digestion as well. So that was great. And the way I work with towns right now is yard materials, as long as the town can keep the yard materials free of trash, we accept them for free. So leaves, wood chips, it has to be ground. And so we do get a tremendous amount of yard materials that way. And currently we don't have any towns that are collecting food scraps to bring them to us. But if there was a way to do that and it was clean, we'd love to take that on. So that's how we're working with towns at the moment. And we always love to give tours so people can see the process and understand what the materials need to look like for it to be successful for everybody.
Yeah, there was a lot, you know, in that answer that I loved, Jane. And, you know, one of the things we're also thinking about is, you know, a lot of municipalities might have a leaf and yard waste facility. Or how can we think about, you know, expanding that to maybe have some food waste, or, you know, how can we improve that facility? And so there's just a lot of things going on there. And also love the cat that walked in the screen. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Yeah. Stuart, yes.
Be happy to go next.
Go ahead.
So what I didn't say initially was we currently have 52 clients. And the thing that's so remarkable about what we do is we've taught our clients, all of our clients, to compost all their food scraps, meat, dairy, everything, animal proof. When I started composting 18 years ago, it never made sense to me to just compost fruits and vegetables to the exclusion of everything else. We've developed a modular, scalable, inexpensive system. All food scraps, as I said, and part of our service is I always invite prospective clients to our home workshop first, so they see what's involved. There's a lot of demystification that goes on, and I realized over the years there's a tremendous amount of archaic thinking out there about backyard composting, which I'm working to dispel. They visit our site, and I always visit every prospective client's site. We chat together about where the composter should go, can go, and why.
Awesome. Connor, I know you guys are doing quite a bit of work with the municipalities. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, sure. So starting in Mass, the municipalities there are under a bit more of a trash squeeze than Rhode Island. So they've been quicker to jump into this. So we work with towns in a variety of ways. And a lot of the times, yeah, their incentives are, they're already getting hit by trash over $100 a ton. And Massachusetts is losing like all landfill capacity in the next like 7 years. So it's going to be even more critical up there. But Rhode Island's not that far behind. But really, municipalities are a huge driving force for getting residents to sign up. And so I would just encourage This is a long process to go from like 0 to 50% of your population composting. And so it's gonna, I mean, I would say it would take at least 7 years for a city to do that. And in Massachusetts, when the last landfill closes, I would think that towns should be at 50%, because I mean, rates are just gonna go through the roof. New Hampshire, 45% of New Hampshire's capacity is from Massachusetts and neighbors, and they're gonna start restricting what they accept in their landfills. There's going to be a real squeeze on landfill capacity across New England. This takes a long time to get going, from 0 to half a population going. So I would really encourage all municipalities in Rhode Island to start thinking about making the first incremental steps, whether that's getting schools going, drop-offs in neighborhoods, transfer stations, buying bins for residents, just the bin to help get started and defray the cost for signing up. But also, it's one thing for residents to listen to a private company pitching their service, but when it comes from a town, there's a lot more authority and trust and stuff, and it has a much bigger impact in getting more people going. So.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think unless Leo maybe wants to answer this one, but then I think I'll move to our next question, which is sort of, you know, what would you like to see municipalities doing around composting that's going to really move the needle forward? So Tess, if you want to take that question.
Sure. To me, the biggest takeaway from this whole conversation that I would love everyone to leave with in their mind is that the best possible way to address this is to know there's not a single solution. We are incredibly privileged in our state to have 9+ awesome composters who all specialize in different areas of this ecosystem. We actually all complement each other extremely well. But I would encourage all of you, as you're thinking about your own municipalities and cities, to leverage organizations like CET and the Food Policy Council to really help guide and matchmake, because this is a macro communal issue. It is not a single solution, one size fits all. Often success really looks like a decentralized system that includes large scale options that serve at a municipal collection level and process at a huge level, so that we're meeting big volumes, but also are paired with city level education and workshop events that welcome residents to do that work at home, and are also paired with inclusive and welcoming community sites that create food access points and diversion points and engagement points. So while making municipal decisions, it always feels easier to look at like a franchise agreement or a single contract. There is so much evidence throughout our country throughout the past 10 years that demonstrates that those approaches tend to fail, or they tend to leave big chunks of our community behind and unconsidered. So we need every solution in the toolkit to address this issue. We need large, small, tiny education, engagement. Every piece of the ecosystem is pretty critical. So again, reiterating the point of leverage the resources that are here, leverage the knowledge that's here. We have incredible stakeholders who are between and neutral from all of us, who are happy to help guide and connect and advise, as well as plenty of really versatile folks who are ready to step in and work with you on creative custom solutions that really fit your community and your municipality's needs.
Awesome. Same question, Ella. What would you like to see municipalities doing around composting?
Yeah, I feel like Tess said pretty much everything that I would have wanted to say. I totally agree that, yeah, not just going with the simplest solution is not always the best solution. And yeah, just really investing in every sort of tier of the process is how we'll like really capture everyone and the most sort of organics possible. And I guess just like one slightly more specific add on to that is municipally, like thinking as a municipality, not just about collecting as much organics as possible, but really thinking about how your municipality can support the processing and that sort of like closing of the loop aspect. It's really cool that Black Earth has sites on city or town land, and so like thinking about that kind of thing, or like how we can leverage parks or like support that sort of closed loop aspect, and a little bit of like a reframe rather than like, let's get this material out of our town so we don't have to think about it, rather like, oh, this is something that could really help us grow more food, help us build our soils, help us prevent flooding from these massive storms that we're like getting today. How can we keep that in our city in like a really sustainable way? And so that's just like another sort of frame to be thinking about these like multi-part solutions.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the flooding. It's amazing when you see two pieces of land that, you know, one has high organic matter, you know, and the other is not so much. And just the amount of you know, water retention in that high organic matter soil is just unbelievable to see. Leo, any thoughts on either how, you know, you want to help municipalities or what you'd like to see them do?
Say kind of three, I think versions of which have been mentioned. I think one is, you know, obviously to think about, given kind of residential waste streams, you know, a lot of the emphasis in the past has been on recycling rates, and this is another piece to really start to figure out. It's a cost that towns are paying for now and that can be put to a higher and better use. I think the second is, you know, towns, you know, somewhat selfishly thinking about being and organizing also for what are food-based businesses in your town doing, and is that a coordinating opportunity, you know, to work with an organization like CET, free resource for restaurants or community kitchens or any facilities that are producing food waste, to really think about, to look at what they're producing, to think about what options there are for diversion, and what local resources there are in terms of both hauling that or processing it. And then I think, as you know, Connor mentioned, and as some examples have been put up, for municipalities to look at their own either DPW operations or existing transfer stations, if they have leaf and yard waste. You know, there are examples across the country of food waste being integrated in those, either managed by DPW staff directly or through partnerships like what Black Earth mentioned. So I think both to look at, you know, residential, commercial businesses in the cities and towns, and then also what land use or operations internally could support that. And if we're looking at all three of those strategically, that seems like the best opportunity to really think about changing the landscape now.
Yeah, I do want to encourage our municipalities to think about, like, you know, we've seen successful composting programs in all types of communities. You know, I've been to a facility down in the heart of Philadelphia that is a public-private partnership between, you know, a private composter and the city. That's, you know, composting right in the city, and we've seen amazing you know, facilities like Jane's you know, out in that are on farms, and you know, Connor's, and so there's all different types of you know, ways we can do it. If you're thinking, oh, we just don't have space, or we don't have you know, it couldn't happen in my community. Well, let's find some ways, you know, even if it's a smaller scale, you know, at the community garden. Let's find ways. So let's see here. So yeah, I do want to again encourage folks who might have any questions, you know, share what you're thinking about, you know, what is your town you know, considering, what do you think your barriers are? And we're happy to sort of answer and help you think through some of those questions. Feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat for our municipal folks. But Stuart, you wanted to hop in here?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on some of Tessa's comments. I would like to see municipalities actually survey their people. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of ignorance around what we can do. I mean, just, yeah.
Yeah,
I think the towns just don't have enough information. And if more and more townspeople know what's actually available, I think we'll have a lot more success.
yeah, I think that's a key role that towns can play is, sometimes these surveys, in addition to, gathering information, are a important part in like saying, hey, maybe these are the people who we can start a program with. If we're not going, town-wide, the 100 people who took the survey and said they're interested in composting,
Right.
well, now I can contact them.
Or did you know that we can do this? Did you know that Providence does that? Did you know how easily scalable this system is for your backyard, for your municipal compost facility, whatever?
Right, right. So Jane talked a little earlier about some awesome programs she saw in Austria, I think it was, right? But I'm interested in our panelists talking about something that you've seen really make a municipal program successful. Like what's a little bit of that secret sauce that you would like to see somebody else bring to the table if they're going to move a program forward. Let's see here. Connor, do you have any thoughts on that?
It comes down to for us, the town pushing the message out. So, for instance, there's various ways. We had, for instance, the mayor of Newton emailed 20,000 people, and we got about 2,000 signups pretty quickly after that. Belmont in Massachusetts sent home flyers in the kids' backpacks at school, and we got about 500 signups from that. And so there's things like that that just help increase the participation. And then the bins on the curb are great. Once you get a lot of green bins on the curb, people start wondering, they start seeing them everywhere, and the program just keeps growing and growing from there. But having initial support and push through various channels in the first few months is pretty key. We're starting a program in Norwood in a couple months, and we had about 30 customers there before they wanted to do a pilot program, and they're pushing the word out, and now we're at about 500 people to start in May. So yeah, early town support and pushing the word out from the beginning is great.
And Lisa, do you guys ever sort of partner with municipalities on sort of the outreach and things like that?
So I appreciate you saying that. And I actually, before I answer that, just want to say how much Connor, there's something really poetic about that idea of like when the last landfill closes. Like it feels like a really exciting vision from the future, honestly. So CET actually intentionally does not do residential work because of the role of recycling coordinators often in towns and cities. We absolutely collaborate with these, people that are tasked with focusing on residential. And I'm happy to quickly share some of the observations that we have learned from those partnerships. But essentially, like, the commercial space we play in, but the residential piece is critical, exactly to what Connor just said around that visibility, that cultural shift in an area. Because when, say, a really large institution like a college or a steakhouse even is going to do back of house diversion, that's not public facing. Nobody sees that. Awesome that it's happening. You're going to get cleaner streams. Let's be very clear about that, how important that is. Lower rates of contamination than anything public facing. but there isn't that cultural shift. And that's why arguably it's the most important when residential programs are acting in concert with commercial programs. That's when you get the front of house and the back of house and people really understanding, oh, food scraps aren't trash. We can take this toxic liability and turn it into a community asset. And so that's why often we see drop-off spots start before curbside pickup in municipalities, right? In towns and cities, right? You're gonna, because think about this idea of like, get the early adopters, get the people that are gonna voluntarily go that extra step to put their food scraps in this area that then could be serviced by a composter, right? Doing that pickup. And then maybe you roll out curbside pickup. The last thing I'll just say about that is like, and it'd be great to hear from anybody on the call, like, because I think finding the bright spots is arguably the most critical piece of all of this in the face of all this adversity and feeling like change is hard and can't move the needle, but it's happening. It's happening in Rhode Island. It's happening in literally every county and you know, probably in every town, even if it's at just a backyard level. Or just a prevention level, like maybe, you know, somebody's upcycling in their kitchen. So I can't underscore the importance of who you can have, you know, right. There's that great quote of like, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Because if you don't have the people, you can have the greatest plans, but if you don't have the people, and that's why identifying these champions and put more wind in their sails, like that to me is really how transformation happens. And would love to hear any stories if there's people on the call here, especially like in your town. Barrington Farm School, we've done some really great work too. They're a very compelling model, but I know that not every place has Barrington Farm School in their community.
Just chiming in here that we have a question in the chat. Michael Sarah from the town of Westerly, who's the transfer station manager, said, looking for disposal reduction options. How can you provide this service at an outdoor facility? What steps are there to control rodents at a high volume residential drop off?
I definitely have some thoughts on that. Ella, I know you guys run some drop offs. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think, yeah, several thoughts. One is like the education component, which I think we've been stressing throughout this, is like continuous education to the people on how to use these sites. Like make sure you put your food scraps inside the bin and don't leave them on top and that sort of thing. I think frequent pickups is really helpful. All the drop-off sites that we run, we have 11 of them in Providence, and they have like a wooden structure with a combination so that when people sign up, they get the combination as well as the information on how to use the site, what can go in, what can't. And then they have like sealed bins inside. So when the bins are sealed, there isn't really a lot of odor or anything like that. And then we empty the bins at least once a week, sometimes more than once a week. And we've had, I think, no rodent issues at any of these sites. So yeah, I think the continuous education and also the frequent collections, and just making sure, I mean, we are in Providence, so we don't have like coyotes or anything like that. I know it's maybe an issue in some places. Some composters in Alaska have to deal with bears and that sort of thing. So larger creatures I'm less familiar with, but we haven't had any like rat or any issues with keeping the sites fairly clean and continuously educating people on how to use them.
Yeah, I'll just add, you know, coming from New Jersey, we saw these same questions and worries, and you know, usually once the drop-off program was in place, suddenly they're like, oh, it's not a problem. But there are steps to do that, and so you know, our partners will absolutely work with you on that. There is a question here I see on costs, and I'm gonna address that in a second. But I just wanted to give before we close, Jane, I don't know if you wanted to add anything additional on that secret sauce that municipalities can think about.
Yeah, sure. I'm working with Fisher's Island in New York on their municipal drop-off, and we found it really helpful to line the drop-off bins where residents come and bring their food scraps with wood chips at the bottom of the bin, and then there's actually just a bin of wood chips that they scoop, a little scoop of wood chips on top each time, that has really reduced, when we know it's August days and stuff, it makes the odors almost nothing, and there hasn't been any rodent issues. We do struggle a little bit with seagulls at the farm when the fish trucks come in and dump. It's, they follow the trucks in, but it's the key is to immediately cover any of your nitrogen rich materials with wood chips, leaves, carbon, that kind of thing. And then the problem goes away. Rats have not been a problem. I think that's a really common myth. And that's really, if you're leaving food scraps uncovered, that becomes a problem, but that just shouldn't be part of composting. So I think that one's that. And also wanted to mention in Austria, the amount, they used to have weekly trash pickup. And then when they implemented separating out food scraps, so yard materials and food scraps are picked up once a week. And then the trash becomes so much less smelly that they're actually doing once every 6 weeks trash collection, because there's so much less between recycling being taken out and the organics. And there's just no odor to what's left in those bins. That has reduced costs greatly. So if your town can compare those costs, that's major. Not every town does pickups, but for those towns that had that was giant. I think that answered those questions.
Awesome. So yeah, we're almost at the finish, and I'm sure our panelists could go for another hour, but I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So just a little quick plug on what the RIFPC is doing around composting. So we one of the things that I'm working on is a network and action plan, so that you'll have in front of you something that you can look at and say, here are the different ways that we can move forward composting. And so if you want to be part of that process, please reach out to me. Also, there is legislation we're working on. So tomorrow, actually, there's a hearing before the Senate Finance Committee that would put a $2 surcharge on solid waste going to the landfill. That's going to pay for a lot of the infrastructure that is needed to bring down those costs, so that it can be, not only just environmentally conscious, but a good, way to manage things for you. So, please reach out to us if you're interested in more information on that legislation, or to think about, writing in support. And then we also have some resources for you, including municipal fact sheets, which are on our website, and I can provide you, direct links to, which would, sort of tell you where you all stand within the ecosystem of food in the state. And we can also show you how much you're spending tipping fees.
MTG at 7 stars.
I don't know what just happened there, but
Sorry, my fault. Sorry.
anyways, so yeah, again, my email is in the chat. And thanks so much for being part of this, and we'll look forward to interacting with you in the future. And thanks to all of our panelists, of course, and to Jennifer from the League of Cities and Towns.
Thank you for being here. This was super informative, and I will get the video posted later today. And for our municipalities, if you'd like to share that with any of your teams and beyond, please do. Any questions or didn't catch one of these email contacts, please go ahead and reach out to me, Jennifer Slattery at the League of Cities and Towns. All right, well, thanks for being here, and hope y'all have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.